Greetings, friends! I made art this morning. I woke up and I thought, I'm gonna watch something on my phone. Then I thought, Brooke, if you watch something on your phone, it better be some kind of After Effects tutorial or art-based thing to help motivate me to get up out of bed. Anyway, so I watched a tutorial that I had technically watched before, but not really watched, you know what I mean? And it was this tutorial about using gradients in After Effects to drive the scale of circles. So I messed around with that, had some fun, had a blast. I made it triangles instead and added rotation, and I thought I would share that with you. So I'm gonna show you what I did. I didn't record it while I was doing it. After I finished it, I thought I should have recorded this. And I didn't, but I'm gonna screen record myself walking through. We'll just pretend. Okay, here it is. Yes, so where to start with this beautiful, beautiful animation? Well, first thing is that this is actually my first attempt at doing it, plus one triangle. I just was testing whether or not it would work. So I did this by following along with the tutorial. Basically, you just make a circle, and in the tutorial, the guy has you create a control null that houses a slider for the size control, because all of these have expressions on them, and to make it easier to change the scale of all of them at once, we have this slider here, so I can make them huge. Actually, I like that better than what I had before. I might just keep that. Anyway, and then also adding a fill effect to the null as well, so you can easily change the color. Don't ask me why the triangle's not. The triangle I created after the fact, and I did not parent the color for the fill to the color for this fill. Anyway, so let me go back. Undo. Originally we create this gradient, which I kept it in pretty, I mean, this is pure white, but I moved to a shade of gray rather than solid black. And basically you use this expression, which came from motionscript.com. Sample, why can't I bring it up? It samples the, what the heck? Oh, here's one. It samples the image, which in this case is the gradient, and based on that determines the size of the shape. Basically, it's changing the scale. So the closer it is to the white, the closer it will be to 100%, and the closer it is to the black or darker values, the closer it'll be to 0. So yeah, the tutorial was for a gradient, but I realized, well, if a gradient will work, if it's just black and white values or grayscale values that you're using to determine, then something like fractal noise would work perfectly too. So that's what I messed around with, was using fractal noise rather than just the gradient to achieve the same effect. And the nice thing about fractal noise is that you can animate the evolution of it. So that's what I have here, and I have cycle evolution on, available in fractal noise, not turbulent noise. As far as I know, I haven't used turbulent noise in a long time. But fractal noise does have the option to cycle the evolution, so that when it goes through a full 360, you know, basically when you're at 359 and then 360, which will be 1x plus 0, that will be the exact same frame so that it's loopable. If I come here to 5 full rotations and then at the very end and then go back to the beginning at 0, it's the exact same background. So that's why I like using fractal noise and keeping cycle evolution on. And yeah, basically that just changes the the noise itself, and that affects the scale of the circles. In the tutorial, he had a really cool thing going with like a circle that was like a blurred stroke moving around, and I think something like that could be really cool. So in the future I'd like to play around with that, but for now I just was messing around with the fractal noise and really just wanting to like test this out. And it's actually pretty easy to do, even though it ends up being a lot of layers. And actually in my second version it's even more layers, because here I did a 6x6 grid, but then I felt like it's too spaced out and it just doesn't work. So in the second version I did 10x10. But anyway, then the triangle. So one thing I wanted to try was, this could look pretty cool with some triangles too. And I also wanted to see, could we use this same expression to drive the rotation value as well? Because originally the motionscript.com script was for changing the color of a shape using the sample image data, but the tutorial that I watched used the gradient and the sample image script to affect the scale. So I thought we could probably do the same thing with this script here on the rotation. The only difference is that in the scale script, he multiplied it by 100 for the coordinates here, because you get 2 values, I guess, for scale, the width and height. And for rotation, instead, I multiplied it by 360, so the equivalent of 1 full rotation. I kind of was thinking, is there a way, because I don't do too much with expressions or coding, but I have some knowledge and I've done some things in the past with, like, for example, what's it called? Oh, it's something with a P. Not Python. Aha! Processing. Oh, look, here's one with a radial gradient. Processing is JavaScript based, I think. So you can code to create these really cool visuals. So I've done some stuff with that in the past. I learned that in school. So one thing I was thinking with the rotation, would you need to map the values that you get from this to like 0 to 360. I'm thinking if there's a way to get it from negative 360 to positive 360, that would be great, because ultimately in what you can see it even just here, but because this is for only going from 0 to 360, so first of all, because I set the parameter for 360, so that's fine, it could go above that if I wanted to, but 360 is fine in that direction, but it doesn't go further, it doesn't go negative. So once it reaches the black areas of the gradient or the fractal noise layer, it will just go back to 0. So less of like a full, I don't know, it makes it look a little, not weird, but I think it could be cool to have a little bit more movement in there. once I finish that, let's see, you can see how many, look at this. There's 111 layers in this comp because I have 100 circles, which I did not start them as circles. I kept the triangle. Then ultimately I decided actually it would be better to pre-comp this. And I'm glad that I did, because I actually ended up with 2 different pre-comps. Still using the circle layer though, so ultimately I could change these back to circles really easily if I wanted to. Which actually kind of an interesting variant to have in there. But basically these are just pre-comps that have only the shape in it. So I still have the control in each of these to, again, affect the size and the fill color. And although my fill is not connected to that, but definitely the size I needed that for. And then each of these, so I actually created all of these shapes in one and then just duplicated it and hid the one layer, which was my original triangle, or this second triangle group that I have here. And then ultimately what I decided to do, let me hide some of these things up here real quick, and just kind of show you some of the basics of how this started. Basically what I decided to do was to have the shapes alternate. So that's it. I did go random at first, and then I thought I'll just do alternating. I think it's gonna look random enough. And I liked having more of the variety in there because of what I ended up doing later with these others. So at first I just started with all this triangle, which I could actually go back and show you just by hiding my layers. See? So this is what it was looking like. Then I had this image from the other day of stairs, some stone stairs, which I don't remember taking this picture. I was taking a video of a firefly, and this picture was just on my phone. I thought, you know what, why not use it? So I added that in there. My very typical blend mode here, I used exclusion, and I added a kaleidoscope effect to it, just for some more interest. Did I mention that I made the background color a gradient now too? Again, for more interest and to give kind of more of a focus on the center, a little bit of a brighter spot there. So I put this picture on in with the blend mode exclusion, and gonna go back actually. So there were some parts where it was like, oh wow, look at how it's interacting with that background, and how the background's well, it's not a background, technically it's in front of everything, but how this image is interacting with the color of the triangles and everything. But I wanted something a little more, the triangles were feeling very flat, so that's when I went and added in this second option. And I also had, I think I did this first probably, created this adjustment layer to put a displacement map on, which the displacement map is also being run by the fractal noise layer, so it's working overtime. And these other two, that I have on here, Gaussian blur and sharpen, is just to give it a more like low quality look to it. So you just blur it slightly and then add the sharpen to it. It gives it a little bit more of like a kind of grainy texture, I guess. And I added this just white solid with Venetian blinds on there to kind of cut through. And what's this one? This, I did another gradient, which is just really going from white to this blue color, because I kind of felt like it needs a little something else. And then I put a mask on this, a triangle mask, to fit the triangle theme. And there's some feather on it too, probably actually quite a lot of feather. So it comes up on the edges, because I didn't I didn't like the way it looked when it covered everything. I thought, well, now I'm losing my cool color that I had from the gradient background, and I wanted that back because I really wanted to keep that. I just wanted a little bit more of a blue factor somewhere in there. So this solid layer with the mask and the gradient ramp helped do that. I added this grain texture, which is actually an image of like a wall or something. I took this picture when I was in Arizona back in December. And then I used I was looking at Ben Marriott tutorials because I know he has some tutorials on making like a kind of scratchy grain texture thing. And I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, but this was basically his process was take this image and then just show it a bunch of times and, and then manipulate it, which I didn't need to watch a tutorial for that, but it's okay. I did anyway. So thanks, Ben Marriott. And then just adding in a little more of this kind of stuff here that I like to put in, having my border stroke, which this time you may notice I rounded the corners. Ooh. In part because I hadn't done that, and then I added this black solid in with a mask on it, which is also a rounded rectangle for the vignette. And then I thought, you know what? I bet it would look pretty good with it if I rounded the corner of the border here. So I did, and I think it did look pretty good. Then I rendered this out and I took it over to my computer, my laptop screen, not my second monitor, which is what I'm on right now. And I was like, oh, everything looks so dull. So I just added this second adjustment layer up top over everything with a little bit of vibrance and a little bit of brightness and contrast. So it's like a little much on the screen that I'm on right now, but on my laptop screen and on my phone screen, it looked like pretty okay. So that's one of the difficulties I found in doing digital art is not all screens are created equal. So just because it looks fantastic on yours doesn't mean it's going to look fantastic on the next screen. Anyway, so yeah, so this is what I ended up with here. And I really am interested in trying to use this script again sometime. And maybe in doing more, like what I was saying, having like a specific kind of shape move through and sort of ripple through these other shape objects here could be pretty cool to continue experimenting with that. But so far I'm pretty pleased with what I've got, especially because I haven't been making a lot of animated stuff for my social media lately. And it's okay. Plus now I have something to put up on my YouTube channel again too. Anything else to say? If you want to download the file for this, it's available for the deeps here on my Patreon, patreon.com/Carabo Animation. And that gets you the whole dang thing right here. This here folder with the pictures and the After Effects file and even the report text. I didn't delete that. Yeah. So thank you for watching this video. Yep. It's playing in the background, by the way, but it's very washed out. There she is. How beautiful. Anyway. See you next time. Peace out.